It all started with a text message I was never supposed to see. A single line that burned into my brain like acid. Can't wait to see you again, babe. Last night was perfect. My husband's phone lit up with it while he was in the shower. The contact name? Mark Office. I remember laughing nervously, thinking it had to be a joke. Mark was his boss. But the way my stomach twisted told me it wasn't funny. My name is Emily, and until that morning, I thought I was happily married. 8 years together, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a Sunday morning routine that felt like safety. We'd built a life that looked perfect from the outside. Dinners with friends, holiday photos where he'd pull me close for the camera, his arm heavy and warm around my shoulders. But that text cracked it all open. For days after, I told myself I must have misunderstood. Maybe Mark's wife borrowed his phone. Maybe Babe was a stupid inside joke. But something in the tone, casual, intimate, practiced, wouldn't leave me alone. I started watching him differently. The late nights at the office suddenly had new meaning. His phone always face down. The way he jumped when I walked into the room while he was texting. And the cologne. God, the cologne. He started wearing it again after years of not caring about how he smelled. It wasn't even the one I bought him. It was new. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. I even mentioned to my best friend Rachel that I was being crazy, that I'd imagined things. She smiled softly and said, "Men get weird sometimes. Maybe he's just stressed." Rachel had known both of us since college. She was my bridesmaid, my confidant, my sister in everything but blood. She was also the one who used to joke that if my husband ever messed up, she'd personally kill him. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have her. But something in her eyes flickered when I brought up that text. A hesitation. A pause too long. I noticed it, but I didn't want to believe it. So instead, I turned detective. I started keeping track of his schedule, writing down every time he said he'd be home late. I checked credit card statements, charges at restaurants we'd never been to, hotel bars near his office, a flower shop receipt with no flowers ever brought home. I even went as far as following him one Thursday evening. He said he had a client dinner at the downtown Marriott. I waited outside in my car for nearly 2 hours before I saw him. He came out of the hotel lobby laughing, his hand resting on someone's back. I couldn't see her face. She wore a long beige coat and had her hair pulled into a loose bun. They looked close, comfortable. When they reached his car, he leaned in and kissed her. Just a quick, familiar kiss. My heart dropped so fast I thought I'd throw up. I grabbed my phone, snapped a photo through the windshield, hands shaking so badly, it came out blurry. But I didn't need a clear shot. I recognized that coat. I recognized that hair. It was Rachel, my best friend. The woman I trusted more than anyone. The woman who'd held my hand through childbirth, who'd cried with me when my mother died. I sat there in the dark, staring at the two people who'd broken me in ways I didn't even know were possible. I couldn't breathe. I drove home in silence, my mind spinning through every memory, every conversation, every moment that suddenly made too much sense. The times Rachel would cancel plans with me last minute because she wasn't feeling well. The way my husband's mood would lift mysteriously afterward. The new lingerie she'd joked about buying for someone special. That weekend, I said nothing. I moved through the house like a ghost, smiling when necessary, laughing when expected. But inside, something inside me was forming, a plan, or maybe just the will to survive the humiliation. I didn't want a screaming match or a scene. I wanted the truth. And I wanted them both to know I wasn't as naive as they thought. So, I decided to set a trap. The following Friday, I told my husband I was going to visit my sister for the weekend. He barely looked up from his laptop when I said it, just nodded and muttered something about drive safe. That was my confirmation. He didn't even ask which sister. He didn't have to. He already had plans. I packed a small bag to make it believable, but instead of heading out of town, I drove 2 blocks away, parked behind the old church lot, and waited. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out the rain starting to hit the windshield. I knew he'd invite her over the moment I left. He couldn't resist the opportunity. I didn't even have to wait long. An hour later, his car pulled out of the driveway. My stomach dropped. He wasn't bringing her to our house. He was taking her somewhere. I followed from a distance, headlights off, rain helping to blur me into the background. They drove to the lake house. The one my parents left me when they passed away. The one he swore he'd never go to without me because it didn't feel right. I parked far enough away to see without being seen. He got out first, ran around to open the passenger door, and out stepped Rachel, my best friend wearing my sweater. My soft cream one, the one she borrowed months ago and must have forgotten to return. They walked hand in hand down the dock like they were the only two people in the world. He turned toward her, brushed the rain from her hair, and kissed her again. I felt numb watching it. I wasn't crying anymore.
I was too far past that.
I just watched. I watched and memorized every second because I needed to know exactly what betrayal looked like. Later that night, I drove home. Every mile a blur of headlights and rain. I sat at the kitchen table until sunrise, staring at nothing. Around 7 a.m., I texted Rachel. "Hey, do you want to grab brunch later? I miss you." She replied instantly. I'd love to, but I have some errands today. Maybe tomorrow?" My lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. Tomorrow. Of course. Because today, she was busy recovering from screwing my husband in my parents' house. I knew I couldn't just confront them. Not yet. They deny, twist, gaslight. I needed something undeniable. So, I decided to record it. The next weekend, I told my husband that the kids and I were going to spend a night at my sister's for her birthday. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "You deserve a break." The same man who used to text me every hour when I went anywhere now barely blinked at the idea of me being gone overnight. I waited until he left for work and then drove back to the lake house. I placed 2 hidden cameras, one in the living room, one in the bedroom. Tiny, silent, connected to my phone. Then I left. I spent that night pretending to have fun with my sister, laughing too loudly over wine, acting like I wasn't waiting for my phone to buzz. Around 9:47 p.m., it did. Motion detected. I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and opened the feed. There they were, on my couch. My couch from my childhood home. Laughing, drinking wine from the bottle I'd left there last summer. When he kissed her, she whispered, "She's so naive, isn't she?"
He laughed.
"You have no idea." I sat there, hand over my mouth, watching the 2 people I loved most in the world talk about me like I was some kind of joke. But what broke me wasn't the words. It was the look in his eyes. He looked free.
Happy.
Like she was the one who made sense, not me. Like she was his real life, and I was just a routine he couldn't escape. I didn't cry this time either. I just felt done. Completely, utterly done. I spent the next few days pretending like everything was normal. But inside, I was crafting the perfect way to make them both see what they'd done. Not revenge, exactly. Just exposure.
Truth.
I started with Rachel. I invited her over for coffee the following Thursday. She came, smiling like always, wearing that same sweater again, like she couldn't resist reminding me. "God, it's been forever," she said, hugging me tightly. "How are you?" I wanted to laugh.
How am I?
I was broken, hollow, half alive. But I smiled and said, "I'm good. Actually, I wanted to show you something." I led her to the living room where my laptop sat open. I pressed play. The video started. Her face changed instantly. First confusion, then realization, then panic. She gasped and tried to close the screen, but I stepped in front of it. "Don't," I said quietly. "Just watch." For the next 3 minutes, she watched herself in my home, with my husband, saying things she could never take back. When it ended, the silence was unbearable. Her lips trembled. "Emily, I can explain," she stammered. "Can you?" I asked. "Because it looks pretty clear to me." She started crying, full body sobs, hands shaking, repeating how sorry she was. I just stood there. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just emptiness. "You should go," I finally said. "And don't ever come back." She tried to touch my arm, and I stepped away. Please, Emily, I didn't mean for it to happen. He said you two were falling apart, that you didn't care anymore. Stop. My voice came out like steel. You don't get to justify it. Not in my house. She left in tears. I thought I'd feel better. I didn't, because I still had to face him. And part of me, the stupid, loyal part, still hoped there was some explanation, some way he could undo it. That night, when he came home, I was waiting at the table with my laptop open again. He looked tired, distracted. Hey, babe. You okay? He asked, noticing the wine glass in front of me. Yeah, I said softly. I just wanted to show you something. And then I pressed play. The moment the video started playing, his face drained of color. For the first few seconds, he didn't even blink. His eyes darted from the screen to me, then back again, like he was trying to convince himself that what he saw wasn't real. His mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to speak, but no sound came out. I just watched him, silently, the way he'd watched her in that video. I wanted him to feel the same paralysis I felt, the same nausea, the same realization that the person he trusted had just shattered everything. When the video ended, I closed the laptop. The sound of the lid snapping shut was louder than any scream. Say something, I said, my voice shaking but controlled. He rubbed his face, exhaled hard, and muttered, Emily, it's not what it looks like. I actually laughed. A bitter, broken laugh that didn't sound like it came from me. Really? I said. Because it looks exactly like what it looks like. He started pacing. His hands were trembling. It was a mistake, he said. It just happened. I didn't mean to hurt you. A mistake, I repeated. Sleeping with my best friend, repeatedly, at my parents' lake house was a mistake? He stopped pacing. His eyes were wet, desperate. You've been so distant lately. You don't look at me the same. Rachel was there. She listened. I slammed my hand on the table so hard the wine glass toppled over. Don't you dare make this about me. My voice cracked on the last word. Don't you dare stand there and blame me for you cheating. He froze. And for a second, I saw something flicker behind his eyes. Not guilt, not shame, but fear. Like he finally understood that this wasn't going to end with tears and apologies. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'll do anything. Please, Emily, don't let this ruin us. I stared at him, searching his face for any trace of the man I married. The man who used to bring me coffee in bed every Sunday morning. The man who cried when our daughter was born. But all I saw was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could lie to me every day and still kiss me goodnight. There is no us, I said quietly. Not anymore. I walked past him, straight to the bedroom, and started packing. He followed me, begging, his words tumbling over each other. Please don't do this, please, we can fix it. Fix it? I said, shoving clothes into a suitcase. You broke it beyond repair. He grabbed my wrist, gentle but desperate. Emily, please. Think about the kids. That stopped me for a moment. Because of course, the kids. Our children. The two innocent souls who had no idea their father had turned our life into a lie. I looked at him then, really looked at him, and felt something shift inside me. You should have thought about them, I said, pulling my arm free, before you decided that a few hours with her were worth destroying their family. I finished packing, zipped the bag, and stood by the door. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but he didn't. Maybe he knew there was nothing left to say. I walked out without looking back. I drove all night. I don't even remember half the drive, just the rhythm of the windshield wipers and the ache in my chest that wouldn't go away. I ended up at a small roadside motel. It smelled like bleach and old cigarettes, but I didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. My phone buzzed constantly, texts, missed calls, voicemails from him, from Rachel, even from mutual friends who somehow already knew something was wrong. I didn't answer any of them. The next morning, I drove to my lawyer's office. I'd never even said the word divorce out loud before, but it rolled off my tongue so easily that it scared me. I want full custody, I said. My lawyer looked at me, sympathetic but focused. We'll make it happen. The following weeks were a blur of paperwork, court dates, custody evaluations. He tried to apologize again and again, flowers on the porch, long emails about how he'd made a mistake, how he missed the kids, how he missed me. But every time I read his words, I just saw the video. I saw Rachel smile. I heard them laughing at me. And all that love that used to live inside me turned into something cold and hard. I didn't even cry anymore. People say time heals everything, but it doesn't heal betrayal. It just makes you quieter about the pain. It teaches you how to breathe around the hole that's been ripped in your chest. Months passed. I focused on the kids, on work, on building something new out of the ruins. I started to feel like maybe, just maybe, I could be okay again. And then one afternoon, while picking up my son from school, I saw her, Rachel, standing across the parking lot. She looked different.
Tired. Gaunt.
There was a baby stroller beside her. My heart froze. A baby. She caught my eye and hesitated, then slowly walked toward me. "Emily," she said softly. Her voice trembled. "Can we talk?" I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed no. But there was something in her expression, fear, regret, exhaustion, that made me pause. "2 minutes," I said flatly. She nodded. "He left me," she said, her eyes glassy. "He said he couldn't handle the guilt, that he still loves you. He walked out when I was 7 months pregnant." The words hit me like a slap.
Pregnant.
"You're telling me that's his child?" She looked down at the stroller. "Yes," she whispered. "I didn't plan it, Emily.
I swear."
I thought he'd choose me. But the second I told him, he changed. He said he couldn't do this again. I stared at her, this woman who once held every one of my secrets, and felt nothing but pity. "You built your future on someone else's lie," I said quietly. "Now you know how it feels." She started to cry again, but I didn't stay to comfort her. I turned and walked away. That night, when the kids were asleep, I sat alone in the dark living room and thought about how strange life can be. How the people you trust most can turn into strangers. How sometimes justice doesn't come from revenge, it comes from watching karma do the work for you. And yet, even after everything, there was still a part of me that wondered. If he called me tomorrow, if he showed up on my doorstep, broken and repentant, could I ever forgive him? Could I ever look at him without seeing that video? That kiss? That betrayal? I don't think I could. But I also don't think love just disappears, no matter how much you want it to. Maybe that's the cruelest part of all. So now, here I am, a woman rebuilt from ashes, stronger, colder, wiser. But still haunted. Haunted by a question I can't shake. If forgiveness is supposed to set you free, then why do I still feel trapped? Tell me, what would you do if the two people you trusted most destroyed everything you had and then came back asking for forgiveness? A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, no return address, just my name written in his handwriting. For a moment, I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. Inside was a single page. "I'm sorry," it began, "for everything. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I finally understand what I've done. Rachel's gone. The baby isn't mine. She told me last week. I've lost everything, the house, my job, my family. You were right. I destroyed it all with my own hands. If there's any part of you that can wish me peace, even from a distance, that's all I ask." I stared at the page for a long time. My hands didn't shake. I didn't cry. There was a time when those words would have shattered me. Now they felt like closure. Not mercy, not reconciliation, just the final, quiet truth. I folded the letter, tucked it back into the envelope, and placed it in the drawer where I keep things that once mattered. Then I stood up, looked around my small, peaceful home, my home, and realized I wasn't waiting for anyone anymore.
No apologies, no explanations, no ghosts.
Just me, finally breathing on my own again. They say betrayal changes you forever, and maybe it does. But it also teaches you the kind of strength you never wanted to learn, the kind that doesn't come from vengeance, but from walking away without looking back. And as I locked the door that night, I whispered to myself, "You're free." But here's what I still can't decide. When someone destroys your heart completely, do they ever truly deserve forgiveness? Or is letting go the only kind of mercy left? What would you do if it were you?